You've survived another week. Thank you for listening, downloading, and supporting the Black Man with a Gun show. 3 things everybody knows about mass shootings that you don't. You know, just days after the mass shooting in Parkland, Florida, President Trump ordered the Justice Department and the Bureau of ATF-E to review Bump's fire stocks. There's always been something after a mass shooting. They've been thinking about changing the age limit of buying a rifle from 18 to 21. Back in October, U.S. Senator Dianne Feinstein from California introduced the Background Check Completion Act, trying to close an imaginary loophole. And before that, she was trying to introduce an Automatic Gunfire Prevention Act that would ban the sale and possession of certain devices. This one's going to be an interesting show. I would love to know what you think about it. This is episode 558.
BlackManWithAGun.com, Ken Blanchard's Pro-Gun Podcast.
This week, you just got me, your friend and brother from another mother, Ken Blanchard, and look for Mike and I on the video on his channel coming soon. There'll be some notices on our Facebook page about when that is. And in case you didn't know it, this show is listener supported on patreon.com/blackmanwithagun. Also by my friends at crossbreedholsters.com. Crossbreed holsters are some of the finest holsters in America. They are imitated for a reason. They sell holsters, belts, modular systems. The U.S. company that my friend Mark Craig had started in 2005 has been a supporter for you and I for almost a decade. Crossbreed Holsters has raised the standard for customer service in the holster industry through its 2-week tried-free guarantee and a lifetime warranty. You tried the rest, now get the best. Go to crossbreedholsters.com and tell them Ken sent you. crossbreedholsters.com.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
If you carry a gun for self-defense, be smarter and join the United States Concealed Carry Association so you can be covered in case you have to use the thing to protect your life from the judicial system. Upfront bail bond funding, attorney counseling, personal hardship coverage, membership deals and discounts, firearms theft, liability coverage, and more. Go to uscca.blackmanwithagun.com right now. uscca.blackmanwithagun.com. This weekend it rained. It rained a lot. Maybe it rained a lot where you were too. It gave me a chance to go sit on the porch for a few minutes and just think about all the things that are happening right now in the United States. I watched the water rise in the creek down the street. I watched the fog roll through our neighborhood. It was a damp and cold time. A good time to think. I had a flood of emotions that came over me as I thought about the arguments of gun control, about the new people in the fight, about how YouTube is slamming YouTubers that are pro-gun. I thought about how there are new companies and folks who are up in arms against the National Rifle Association, about people who are taking sides based on color, based on emotions, based on ignorance, based on what the news presents. The truth is out there, though, just like X-Files. Gun control is as old as gunpowder itself. There has always been one side in favor of controlling who can get a gun. Gun control is great for politicians and the media because it's an easy sell. It's called an evergreen subject if you're a journalist student. It's always been about the money. It's good for corporations and celebrities in need of a tax write-off this time of year. It's good for politicians because you can't offend a mechanical device You can talk about a gun all day and it can't sue you. It's good for organizations because you can look like you're doing something socially correct. It's good for the preacher and clergy because it sounds like you are socially conscious and aware, even though you're not. Gun control is a billion-dollar industry. It sells more guns than anything else. In the inner city, they get the mothers of slain teens to put their tears on display. Politicians and organizations pimp these grieving women. Imagine your mother being manipulated and used in the worst time of their life. Some of these ladies lost their kids early on to the streets. Their sons were in gangs or a part of the drug trade, and their death, although tragic, was not a surprise. Now you're giving them a chance to make, them proud of their sons. It's a strange thing. This month we have been plagued by tragedy. But unlike any other month, actually, we have affluent kids in Parkland, Florida, gladly being exploited and pushed into the spotlight for the causes of gun control. I suspect some are loving it, being flown around and funded by millionaires and whatever to be in the spotlight. Using their naivete, their voices, their socialist tendencies, they're being paraded and funded around the country to champion the cause of something they know nothing about. Yes, they are victims of a horrible time. And they are surprised, however, that no one takes them serious. They have no idea that every gun control measure that can be instituted has already been tried, implemented, legislated, or proposed before. Gun control is a fail. It was birthed in racism. You cannot legislate human behavior. Evil exists when good people do nothing. Evil is real. The heart of man is desperately wicked. It's in the mid-40s now. It's not that cold. But I get a cold shiver when I remember when I first started. It seems like there's always been a mass shooting. Always. This isn't new. Remember when I first started with African American Arms and Instruction, I was becoming a speaker, traveling around with the National Rifle Association, the Second Amendment Foundation, Gun Owners of America. Whoever needed a speaker, I was there. I met a young lady who had lost her parents to a gunman who crashed into a Texas cafe and began shooting. He killed 23 people before he committed suicide himself. The next month, in November of 1991, a gunman murders 4 University of Iowa faculty members and a student before committing suicide. This isn't new, so let me continue. In 1991, President Ronald Reagan wrote an op-ed for the New York Times, making a case for the Brady Bill, which was named after his press secretary, who was shot during an assassination attempt. The law established federal background checks for firearms purchases and created a 5-day waiting period to give law enforcement time to run these checks. The waiting period was eventually replaced by the NICS check, which can be extended to 3 days if the results of the check aren't immediately clear. There's pretty much been a knee-jerk reaction and an action after every mass shooting. In 1994, the Public Safety and Recreational Firearms Act, also known as the Federal Assault Weapons Ban, was created as a part of the Violent Crime Control and Law Enforcement Act of 1994. The act prohibited the manufacture, transfer, or possession of, quote, semi-automatic assault weapons as defined by the act. It didn't stop anything. But history continues. In 1996, there was a Port Arthur massacre in Australia that radically changed things down under. And folks are still reeling from all that happened there. That great gun ban and destruction of firearms did not stop crime. 1998, Massachusetts went on a rampage, and they passed what was hailed as the toughest gun control legislation in the country. It banned semi-automatic, quote, assault weapons, imposed strict new licensing rules, prohibited anyone convicted of a violent crime or drug trafficking or even carrying or owning a gun, and enacted severe penalties for storing guns unlocked. But the law was so tough on law-abiding gun owners that it didn't do a thing for criminals. According to the stats, since 1998, gun crime in Massachusetts has gotten worse. In 2011, Massachusetts recording 122 murders committed with firearms. The Globe, a paper there, reported that a striking increase from the 65 in 1998. Other crimes rose too between 1998 and 2011, robbery with firearms climbed 20.7%. Aggravated assault jumped 26.7%. Not to be outdone, Colorado jumped into it after Columbine. Columbine, 2 high school students murdered 12 students, 1 teacher, and themselves in Colorado. And they made pretty strict stuff banning, quote, straw purchases of weapons for people who could not qualify to buy them legitimately. It was a rough time to come out with a book called Black Man with a Gun, especially when you're wearing a long black trench coat and carrying an MP5K machine gun on the cover. It was a little bit too close to the tragedy at the time. But it was the coat I used to wear all the time, though. But hey, my timing has never been that great. Then there was January 2006, had an ex-postal worker murder 8 before he committed suicide in California. It was in a rare case because this was a female shooter. October 2006, a gunman murdered 5 girls in Pennsylvania Amish school before committing suicide. I think they might have made a movie off of that one. 2007, there was Virginia Tech student murdered 32 people before committing suicide. November 2009, a U.S. Army psychiatrist murdered 13 people in Fort Hood, Texas. You might remember that one. January 2011, gunman murdered 6 people and wounds U.S. Representative Gabrielle Giffords in Arizona, forever changing her life and making her a poster child for anti-rights and gun control. July 2012, a gunman murdered 12 people during a showing of a Batman movie in Colorado. Same year, August 2012, a gunman murdered 6 people at a Sikh temple in Wisconsin before committing suicide after being shot by police. December 2012, a gunman murdered 26 adults and children at Sandy Hook Elementary School in Connecticut before he killed himself. 2012 was also the time I actually got a chance to go to Hollywood and was auditioning for a part in a new reality show with 3 other guys. And it was going to be a gun-related show, kind of funny, kind of entertaining. It was torn between Spike TV and an independent channel. But after Sandy Hook and the way everybody went, they canceled it, didn't go anywhere. September 2013, unemployed now. The gunman murdered 12 people at a naval facility at the Navy Yard in Washington, D.C. before dying in a gun battle with police. I remember getting a chance to plead to all servicemen, retired and veterans, all those that are home, to take care of each other, to look after one another, brothers that have been coming home a little depressed, a little sad, been alone too long. And then I got in trouble with my senior pastor. He was jealous that I had actually got on television and he didn't. Yeah, that was some strange stuff there. October 2014, a teenage gunman murders 4 teens, 2 of whom are his cousins in Washington State High School, before he committed suicide. Not sure if you knew about that one yet. June 2015, one guy murders 9 people in South Carolina church before running, but he's captured, and he was sentenced to death. This hit home for a lot of black churches who had been anti-gun for a long time. They really didn't know where to go with this one. I was called a couple of times, consulted a few times, asked my opinion a lot. Still the pariah, though, in my own community. Thanks God that I changed my community way back in 1991 to include everybody, all free-thinking people, all Americans, regardless of color, creed, nationality, or preference. So in my circle, I was still good to go. July 2015, a gunman murders 9 at an Oregon community college before he kills himself after a gun battle with police. November 2015, a gunman murders 3 after storming a Colorado Planned Parenthood clinic. He is arrested after hours-long standoff with police. December 2015, couple murders 14 people after storming California Social Services Agency, and they are killed in gun battle with police. June 2016, a gunman murders 49 people at Pulse, a gay nightclub in Orlando, Florida. During this time, there was also a growing movement of educators and trainers, firearms instructors that sought to teach schools and teachers about self-defense, as well as there was a group of church security that started to grow from this as well. And now we were moving into the gay, lesbian, transgender community, trying to make sure that folks like the Pink Pistols were stronger. October 1st, 2017, a gunman opens fire on a country music concert in Las Vegas, Nevada, murdering at least 58 people and wounding more than 500 others. It was called the deadliest mass shooting in modern U.S. history. The scapegoat here is a bunch of plastic known as the bump stock. Everybody threw that under the bus. Nobody cares. Except maybe the company that started it, that created it, that's been profiting from it. Will it save a life? No. And now, Valentine's Day 2018. A former student who had been expelled for disciplinary problems was arrested after shooting that left 17 people dead and 16 people wounded. I've been in this argument a long time. I've seen the pros talk about it. I've seen the new folks talk about it. I've seen people jump on it just because it gets them some shine. I've seen politicians use it for their benefit. I've seen people exploit it. I've learned to hold my tongue, to wait, and only take care of the grieving. Don't use this opportunity to promote my own agenda, which is safety, peace, love, the shooting sport. I know sometimes we're talking about mental health and gun control at the same time. I know that my friends, the people on this side, are a lot more educated and knowledgeable, but you're throwing out facts and you're throwing out data to people who are emotionally charged, who can't hear what you're saying. When you think about mental health and gun control, you might think of the killers, but the numbers say that persons with serious mental illness account for only 3 to 5% of all violent acts. If you're going by the numbers, mental ill individuals are 10 times more likely than the rest of the population to be victimized by violent crime. Despite 96% of violence in the United States being committed by the non-mentally ill, when a mentally ill individual engages in this mass killing, it generates gun control discussions from all sides. Some respond by wanting to increase gun control for everyone to try to keep guns out of the hands of the violently ill. Many argue for ensuring that all jurisdictions report involuntary psychiatric admissions to the NICS database. Social Security and the VA have or plan to report to NICS those who have others helping to manage their finances, although Congress is working to change this. Many in the gun community argue for restrictions intended to prevent violently mental ill from having firearms. Many of us want decreased barriers so law-abiding citizens can more easily defend ourselves and our loved ones from violent attacks. But many of us also support allowing trained staff or police officers to carry firearms in targeted locations like schools. And that's what you hear about right now. Several states have increased mandated reporting requirements for mental health providers. New York requires mental health professionals to report anybody who is, quote, likely to engage in conduct that would result in serious harm to self or others, to the state's Division of Criminal Justice Services, which then alerts the local authorities to revoke the person's firearms license and confiscate his or her weapons. California adopted a 5-year firearms ban for anyone who communicates a violent threat against a, quote, reasonably identifiable victim to a licensed psychotherapist. A bill, quote, passed as a response to mass shootings requires Tennessee-based mental health professionals to report threatening patients to law enforcement. Many mental health providers are uncomfortable with laws like this due to the concerns that they may discourage people from seeking needed treatment. And we haven't even talked about suicide. I think what I'm trying to say also is that nothing is new under the sun. That violence, that evil exists, that there's always been mass shootings, always been killers, always been murderers, always been criminals. That there are thousands of laws already on the books that haven't stopped or saved a life. We have two sides. We have a side that wants to arm themselves and protect themselves, and the other that wants to restrict who has firearms and believes that if all guns vanished tomorrow, we would have a better society. We have two sides with different realities. We have mixed in there people with their own agendas and folks who are sprinkled in there pretty thickly who don't have a clue, but are active participants in the argument. I feel sorry for the young people, the survivors who are being exploited right now. For those who don't understand grief, that even us pro-rights, pro-gun loving folks are also grieving for our country, also grieving for the loss of life. For these past 20-some years, I don't think we pronounce it enough, say it enough. Don't show that we are a feeling people, a people who don't want to hide, don't want to run. We want to stand and fight. We're the other side. We say never again, and we mean it. But I don't think that comes out as nice and as sweet as I just said it. I'm mushy like that. Gun ownership is part of the fabric that makes up the U.S. identity, with the right to keep and bear arms found in the Constitution's Second Amendment, adopted in 1791. But folks don't know our history. Folks want to repeal the very thing that saved us from being like anybody else in the world. In 1999, I launched a book and a website called blackmanwithagun.com. It was a crazy time even then. Folks that don't know me and didn't know me wonder what the heck I was trying to do. I was using the name to educate, not to incite. I don't know where we're going, but I know where we've been. President Obama said something kind of cool back in the day. He said that now, even as we speak, there are those who are preparing to divide us, the spin masters and negative ad peddlers who embrace the politics of anything goes. Well, I say to them tonight, there's not a liberal America and a conservative America. There is the United States of America. There's not a black America and a white America and a Latino America and an Asian America. There's the United States of America. When you get the choice, don't let anybody divide you, separate you. Put it in your head that you have to be against somebody, anybody. And I know I'm representing all the tough guys and the tough ladies on this side of the planet. I know you guys are fired up and tired of getting your rights snatched and taken away from and accused of being a murderer just for being a law-abiding citizen. I get that. I'm on your side. And that's why I'm here. I'm here to be the voice of peace and reason, to be the soothing tone in amongst the craziness. I'm the priest of this group, the pastor of patriots, pistoleros, and paladins. It's my job to make sure that you're okay. The good ones. Remember this, though, good ones. The other side is grieving. They're angry. They're frustrated. They don't know what they're talking about. Remember that they, too, have lost someone. Be a little nicer, a little kinder, a little gentler. It is still true you get more with honey than you will with vinegar. Please remember and don't forget to honor those who we've lost these past 20 years. The church members and the country singers and players and folks in the clubs and the folks in the schools and the children in the streets. Don't forget. Also, don't turn a blind eye to those who we've lost through law enforcement. The Philando Castillos, the folks who, it wasn't a mass shooting, but a very highly publicized one. When in doubt, show your heart. Show that you care. That's all anybody really wants. There is no silver bullet. There is no one shot for everything, one solution for any of this stuff. This is just craziness of a people. Hurt people, hurt people. Remember the fallen. Thanks for listening. Thank you for listening, downloading, and subscribing to this show. Like a comet blazing across the evening sky, gone too soon. Like a rainbow fading in the twinkling of an eye, gone too soon. Shiny and sparkling and splendidly bright, here one day, gone one night. Like the loss of sunlight on a cloudy afternoon, gone too soon. Like a castle built upon a sandy beach, gone too soon. Like a perfect flower that is just beyond your reach, gone too soon. Born to amuse, to inspire, to delight, here one day, gone one night. Like a sunset, dying with the rising of the moon, gone too soon. Gone too soon. Have you heard my other podcast? Speak Life. Proverbs 18:21 says that life and death are in the power of the tongue. Join me in faith and be a part of my family on a podcast that gives you what you missed in church. SpeakLifePodcast.com. Serving Jesus without boundaries. SpeakLifePodcast.com. And we're on Facebook too. SpeakLifePodcast.com. Well, that's it for this week. I want to thank you for joining me, and if you liked what you heard, please tell somebody. Dr. Martin Luther King said, "We've learned to fly the air like birds. We've learned to swim the seas like fish, and yet we haven't learned to walk the earth as brothers and sisters." Until next week, just in case nobody has told you this today, I love you, and there's not a darn thing you can do about it. Shalom, baby. Blanchard.media.